Hello everyone, I'm back with another video for you today, and today I'm going to be jumping into some games that I played against Kolemoen, who I'm sure many of you know who he is. He is a very successful, very popular pro player in Gwent. A lot of people say he's the best player in the game at the moment. He has very high win rates on ladder, and he has a lot of impressive tournament finishes as well. And he was playing for Team Germany in the Team R2's World Cup, myself for Team UK, and we did, match into each other. So some very interesting games. I wanted to analyze them a little bit, give my thoughts on, some mistakes, some lines of play that aren't immediately obvious, and some cool things to note and stuff like that. I did a video like this with Trinet. If you haven't seen that yet, then feel free to check that one out. That'll be on screen. But yeah, we'll be jumping into that. Let me do a quick refresher for those of you who don't know the format for this tournament. It works as a best of 3. So you play potentially 3 games. Whoever wins 2 will be, moving on, winning that series. And you have 1 ban. You bring 3 decks, you ban one of the opponents, and you are then trying to win with the remaining 2 decks that you have. The opponent's trying to do the same, and whoever wins with their 2 decks first is going through. So I have the decks here on the screen. These are my decks. I did bring Uprising, Hidden Cache, and Double Cross. Double Cross is not really a leader that you see played very much, but it has quite a lot of potential, I think. Especially in a tournament format where you can control what your opponent is playing. When you are banning something like Syndicate, which is what I ended up banning in this tournament for the games that I have played so far. When you can ban something like Syndicate, Double Cross as a leader becomes a lot stronger because you can work out what your opponent will be playing and use that leader to take something very valuable from them. So I'm looking at, okay, Double Cross will probably be playing against Northern Realms or Squirtel or Nilfgaard, all of which have some pretty good targets for that leader. You're thinking Great Oak, you're thinking maybe Draug possibly, or Falibor in Northern Realms, and in the mirror match, obviously you're going to find some good stuff there because you're effectively taking something from your own deck potentially, from the opponent. So Double Cross was kind of this tech leader. I went with this sort of, very heavy poison approach with Masquerade Ball, replaying it, and then a bunch of poisons to support that, King Cobras as well. Kind of the reasoning there, and the reason for no Magni divisions is so that you don't brick your Joachim. Later in the game, he pulls the top card from your deck, so you don't really want those weak 4p bronzes. You really want something that can give you, a big finishing push towards the end. So that was the Nilfgaard deck, and basically with my lineup here, I was attempting to be beating Scoia'tael, Mystic Echo, and also having a pretty good shot against Northern Realms, especially if the opponent has Draug. The Double Cross, in theory, can get me my own Draug and allow me to, get a lot of humans on the board and be fighting the long round just as well as the opponent. With that Nilfgaard deck. Hidden Cache just tends to have a good matchup against Northern Realms if you don't run the Passiflora, because you're not vulnerable to the Bomb Heaver, in my opinion. And you can play a lot of these engines like Mutated Hound, Imke, and, Bincy, Soul, etc. There are a few too many engines for Northern Realms to deal with usually. Now, if they are playing the sort of more mid-rangey Northern Realms, which is what I brought here, then that's not so much the case. The removal is very helpful against engines. And they're typically playing things like Philippa, maybe Avalak, that sort of thing. So that deck does have a chance against this, Hidden Cache, and it also is pretty good against Draugs, because you have maybe Lambert. You can ping off all the strength with all the green strength with Avalak to stop their Scytheman and Visigoth going tool and whatnot. So some pretty interesting decks here. Just kind of a target Scoia'tael, target Northern Realms kind of deal, and you'll see here that Kolemoen actually went for a very similar approach. And in fact, he tried to beat Northern Realms a little bit more than I did, potentially, with some different inclusions in his Nilfgaard and his Uprising deck that he did bring. So with those 2 decks, he had Defender in Uprising, which is pretty unusual. That's sort of a tournament tech. You're really trying to punish opponents that don't bring Purify, which is something that Northern Realms sometimes won't play. They might tech in a Bomb Heaver instead of a Pella, for example. Now, worth noting, I did have a Pella in my lineup in that Northern Realms deck. That's a really key thing. So that means I do have a chance in those mirrors. I'm not just going to see the defender and kind of lose the game on the spot. I do have Pella to deal with that in my deck, fortunately. I also have Kalkstein in Syndicate, and, of course, Diviner. So the Northern Realms defender here from Kolemoen, a bit of a gamble, kind of saying, don't think my opponent's going to be running Purify. Hopefully I can punish that. Worth noting, the previous round, I hadn't played Purify in my decks, and neither had my sort of teammates in the tournament, so presumably that was the read that they're trying to make with Adonomir there. But Adonomir just, trying to win Northern Realms mirrors, really, and punish bad draws or not playing a Purify. So his list is otherwise very similar to mine. It's sort of this mid-range Northern Realms. The Imperial Formation deck that he has, the Nilfgaard, is a bit different. It's sort of a hybrid between Masquerade Ball and Soldiers, both packages rather than just focusing on just the poison. And that means he's probably a bit more well-rounded, a little bit stronger against Syndicate, for example, than my version would be, I imagine. A little bit weaker against maybe Mystic Echo, because you're not so all-in on poison. He can replay his scenario, though, with Matter and Asaya, worth noting. It's just a little bit clunkier, because he doesn't have so many aristocrats. Relies a bit on the Soldier package as well, and then his Hidden Cache is pretty standard. So I end up banning the Hidden Cache here because I feel like that Passiflora deck is just the best in the game, very, very strong. And interestingly, Kolemoen actually decided to ban my Nilfgaard deck, the Double Cross deck. And I think the reasoning here was simply he figured that leader was probably too strong, and maybe he didn't have the matchup experience playing against it either to really be comfortable. I think he imagined that my Double Cross deck would be very favoured against his Nilfgaard deck, and it would probably be very favoured against his Northern Realms deck, being able to steal something very strong like a Falibor or whatever, and he didn't have Bomb Heaver in his lineup. So presumably that was the thinking there. He allowed my Syndicate through, which I was pretty happy about. So that sets the stage for the matches. Let's jump into the first game, shall we, and see how it played out. I have a bit more of a cleaner setup this time round than previously. I was watching, the matches online, but this time we can watch them kind of in real time without the casters on the sides and whatnot, so it should be a bit cozier and a little bit less scuffed. So okay, I am on the red coin here as Syndicate, Kolemoen on blue with the Northern Realms. That's kind of what's going to go on. So remember that he banned my Nilfgaard and I banned his Syndicate. So he can't play Syndicate. That means his red coin deck here is probably Nilfgaard and Northern Realms blue. I guess with Northern Realms you often want to pass very early into round one and defend the bleed. So it's not a terrible deck to play on blue coin. You're able to, get out of the round quite quickly. And Syndicate I'm always going to play on red because it's a very coin abuse deck. Can develop carryover if you want, can bully the opponent and try to win on even. Let me just see if I can... I guess that's about as good as we're going to get. Alright, whatever. So I'm just trying to work it out. But okay. So what are the hands looking like here? Yeah, Kolemoen's objective here is probably going to be to get out of the round and try not to lose too much, try not to use too much. Interestingly, he doesn't play the Draug. So his round 3 is a little bit less scary than it would normally be for Northern Realms, but that's still very powerful in round 3, in a long round 3. That leader ability with Scytheman, with Visigoth, and all the buffs is very, very powerful still. So you really shouldn't underestimate their long round, even without Draug. Kolemoen's going to open up with the Mauler here. And really what I'm thinking in this situation is, I would quite like to be able to win round 1. That would be very good for me. I do want to push the opponent here. I don't have Passiflora. I don't have sort of the huge, amount of engines that normally Syndicate might have. So I'm going to be relying a bit more on a push in round 2 to be able to get some of the really key cards from Kolemoen and set up for round 3 with carryover and stuff. Make it a bit shorter. Maybe have a Louisa Savola in a short round sort of thing, because that should be beating his Scytheman and Visigoth value. So I'm going to try my best to win this round. And what does that mean here? Well, I could go with poison onto this, onto this Marauder, but I think I'm just going to play the engine immediately. I'm not too worried about it dying. There's not really 3 damage. He could play a Boiling Oil, for example, to kill that, but then he doesn't have Boiling Oil to deal with a different engine that will come down later on. Maybe Imk, for example, or even my Die Mutated Hound really is happy if it doesn't get damaged. And you can see I've got that in hand. So I don't mind if he kills the peaches, but if he doesn't, then I want to get it down as soon as possible to start accruing the points. I also figure he has tactical advantage in this matchup as the stratagem, so that means I'm going to get more poison value than I am on this Adirnian Mauler currently. I could poison it with the Fist Tech for basically a 6-point poison, but he's going to have to boost one of his units eventually, and that will mean I'm going to be able to get 7, 8, 9 points from the Fist Tech, from the poisons that I have. And since I only have 2 of them, I need to really be careful how I use them in this round if I want to win it. So I'm going to kind of slow play it. Kolemoen's going to do the same. He's going to play a couple of bronzes because he doesn't want to overcommit to round 1. His objective is to get out, ideally with me using some good stuff and not having that much carryover, but also with him not committing any good cards really. So he just goes with the Ballista. It's pretty annoying for me. It's a bit of an awkward one because if I play Street Urchins, which I want to do now, to get Boat out, then it's just going to die for free basically, so I won't have a spender on the board. But at the end of the day, I do need to get the Boat out, and I've got another spender in hand, I've got another Street Urchins, I've got Sea Jackal as well, so there's really a lot of options for me there, and it's not too worrying to just play that out. So that's what I end up doing. I figure, at some point he's going to have to play the TA to boost his unit up. When he does that, I'm going to be able to poison and sort of gain back the point disadvantage that I'm going to have from these couple of first cards that he's played. And I can also think about playing the Dire Mutated Hound once this damage is gone from his side of the board. Once he's used the 2 sort of pings from these guys, I can start spending coins as well now since I've got my Flying Redanian out of the deck. So, my next play I'm thinking might be just another Street Urchins after that one dies, and I can play Street Urchins and spend some of my coins. Maybe spend down to 5, so I have, room to play my Fist Tech, or spend down to 4 coins maybe, and keep that Street Urchins out of range of damage. He's going to go ahead and play Enchantress, just another weak card. Not playing the Radovid's Royal Guards here in his hand, which means he's probably going to pass very soon, because you'd imagine if he wanted to get those, both down, he would play that. And he chooses not to kind of commit any good cards. He could have played like a Philippa here, maybe to actually push the round. There's no guarantee that would have won him the round though, because I could, I still have 6 coins in the bank. The boat would come back out, so it's pretty respectable, this Enchantress play. He does actually boost the Ballista as well, which I can't say is right. I think he probably should have used the Enchantress on the Mauler. I think the reasoning he didn't do that is because he was afraid of Philippa, and I presume the Philippa value, if I steal the Mauler after he Enchantresses it, that would probably be winning me the round on even, or it would, be allowing me to push on even. The music's just ran out because my internet is terrible, by the way, so sorry about that, but hopefully it'll come back in a second. I'm going to keep going with the commentary, because why not? I don't think the music's too important. Anyway, yeah, so it does mean I get a really nice poison here, because he has to boost the Ballista rather than the Mauler, because he's scared of Philippa. So I don't think Kolemoen's too sad about that. He was wanting to take the pass now anyway, judging from his plays here. But it does mean I can get my, round 1 win very easily. I have 9 coins now in the bank, and I committed only, a few bad bronzes. Kolemoen only committed bad bronzes as well, but I'm pretty happy because I got carryover and I managed to win the round here with the Fist Tech Trafficker. So all in all, a very good round 1 for me. Kolemoen's probably not too sad either. He kind of did what he was supposed to in this round, and didn't overcommit or anything. But I can't say I'm too sad with the result here. So we're going to go to round 2, and yeah, my objective here is going to be to, push the opponent a little bit, try to get some good resources from them, pressure them, ask them questions, say, do you have the answer to my Bintsy? Do you have the answer to my Dire Mutated Hound? If you don't, you're in a really bad spot. And sometimes you can do that in round 2, when the opponent's less likely to have drawn their answers, because, you haven't had the round 3 draws, the mulligans, etc. You can do some kind of pressuring and asking the questions. So my hand here is pretty good. I've managed to find Savolla. I have Louisa available with Royal Decree. I choose to keep the Fist Tech because I figure that it can be useful with the morale in this round. If he kills it, or if something goes weirdly, then I might need to have 3 poisons. He also has Pella in his deck, so he can use that to purify a poison, so just having 3 poisons in hand is probably going to be good for me here in general. And Kolemoen's hand is looking pretty solid. It's, you know, what you'd expect at this point in the game. He's got a couple of bronzes still, just as I do, and he's got a lot of his good power golds. He's got a Defender, Kira, you know, Reynard for a bit of engine value. But yeah, I'm scared of going to a long round against this. It's not really going to end too well for me. It's much better that I push a little bit and take away leader value from him, take away, you know, engine value from things like Reynard and Anna Strenger. So I'm going to go with Bintsy, and this is a really scary play. There's very little in his deck that can answer this, and it's also not too much of a commitment on my part. You know, Bintsy isn't, you know, the best card in the deck. You're looking at something like Saul for that. Saul is the really powerful card that if you don't answer, I will win the game, simply put. Whereas Bintsy, you know, if he deals with it, it's not the end of the world for me. If he doesn't, it's pretty bad for him. It probably won't be game over because I don't have that much coin generation beyond this point, but it's definitely good if it sticks on the board, and it's a big threat. So, you know, Kolemoen has to kind of respect that. He only really has one way to deal with it, which is Philippa. Using the Philippa doesn't feel good here. He could have also, you know, maybe played a Caraballista, tried to set up the ping onto Bintsy, kill it with boiling oil. But, you know, this Philippa does clear the board. It just, I'm still ahead in points because my boat is going to come out again. So I traded really nicely here. This is like a very happy trade for me, and I now have a lot of options. I could maybe play my Hound, start getting that rolling. I could play Saul here as well, and he is already instantly activated. You know, I'm a little bit scared of Prince to kill Saul, and that is a play that would actually get the opponent ahead. So I decided to go with the dog instead. I also figure Saul is a better win condition, and either way he can play Baron on whatever unit that I play here. So I'd rather play, you know, a little bit of a less valuable unit. If I can hold on to Saul and use that for round 3, then I'm probably winning if it survives, is what I figure at this point. He's kind of my unfair card that can really swing the game. So I'm going to play the dog. I also am thinking right now that he probably doesn't have a way to deal with this very easily. It's not very possible for him to damage the armor, so the dog's going to get a huge amount of value. I'm thinking a bit further into the future and thinking his ways to damage the dog are things like the Mauler, things like the Caraballista in his deck, and that takes a whole turn for him to get online. So I'm going to be able to answer those and really gain a lot of tempo over the opponent here. And what that means is his engine plays, his Reynard, his Anna, if he has it, they're going to be a lot weaker because he's getting them down later in the round, and they're not, you know, they're going to put him at a deficit when he does play them. So he does go with the Mauler here, obviously threatening to take down the armor. Here is a pretty obvious you-old play, I think. I can deal with that engine, I can put him behind even more points, I can start spending some of the coins that I have in my bank, really gaining that tempo advantage. And now we're getting into territory where he needs to be very afraid of the dog, because this dog is getting so many points every turn. 2 points per turn. I'm already very far ahead. And, you know, I'm basically saying, Mr. Kolemoen, you need to play some of your good resources now. You need to really be respecting these points. He does have Bloody Baron in hand, so that's his kind of key card here that can get him out of this sticky situation. If he didn't have it, then the situation would be even worse for him. It would be, you know, really devastating, because that dog is just going to snowball and snowball. If he does damage the armor with something like Falibor, then I'm able to just reapply the armor, and there's no real way for him to efficiently deal with that. He could play Boiling Oil, but that's not a very good use of the card here. And obviously if he does Falibor my boat, he's probably thinking that it'll just come out again, so the Falibor value there will be pretty terrible. So we'll see what he goes for. He might choose to Boiling Oil the dog. Looks like he does. Yeah, okay. Just dealing with the armor there, so I'm very happy to see that. Yep, sure, Boiling Oil's out. I'm also thinking now my morale probably will stay on the board. He could have Ansays to deal with it, but morale is probably not going to die anymore. Likewise with my Imk and stuff that's still in the deck. So that's really happy. Now I'm thinking I can probably just reapply the, you know, the, what's it called, the armor to the dog, get it rolling again. I'm figuring his way to deal with that will probably at this point be another unit that he has to play on the board, like Caraballista, right, or Mauler again. think he played both Maulers this game already, but probably going to be a Caraballista to answer it. So I figure if I actually go with Morale here, I can, get a presence on the board. I can be able to answer the next card that he plays. I can kill the next engine that he goes with, that Caraballista, and that will protect my Hound from, continuing to roll and roll and roll. And the other really important thing to note here is he has to kind of hold on to his Falibor for my Defender in this matchup, because he doesn't have a super efficient way to deal with my Defender otherwise. And if my Defender is allowed to be activated and not dealt with for a turn or two, then that can brick his Baron, it can brick his, some of his damage, and it just makes his life really, really awkward. So he's got that in mind. He's keeping his Falibor around for my Defender later in the game when I play it. Which is, fair enough. Plus, he doesn't want me to get the boat back out. But this play is really key for me, I think, this Morale, because it allows my dog to keep rolling. And as you see, he has to play Caraballista now. He has to go with another weak card. And now holding onto that Fist Tech is also very good for me, because I'm able to use it with the Morale to kill that engine before it's able to turn my dog off again. So we're really just thinking a turn or two ahead into the future with these plays here, thinking, how does my opponent deal with my dog here? How can they do it efficiently? And how do I deny them from doing that? And really make their life difficult in this round too. So I'm going to go with that Morale and Fist Tech play here to deal with the Ballista. And yeah, the dog is still steamrolling. Don't really need to spend the coins here. I'm now thinking I most likely will take a pass here. If it makes sense to, I could play Louisa Savola and push even more, potentially clicking the dog a third time or a second time, if he does do some, one piece of damage with maybe Falibor or whatever. If not, then I can probably just assume it's going to get Baroned, and then I'm going to get out of the round and be pretty happy with all the resources that I've managed to take from him in this round too. So really awkward spot for Kolemoen. I think at this point he has to be saying, fine, I'm going to spend Baron this round to deal with your dog, but I need to get points on my side of the board right now. And he is going to play the Reynard, because that engine needs to actually get some value in this round, otherwise it's going to be very dead at the end. So he plays it now, and I probably I'm now thinking I want to kill that, to be honest. I think I can really, destroy the opponent in this round too if I do kill the Reynard here. But he goes with the leader charge onto it, protecting it from, my Uold, which at this point I'm thinking, alright, it's a little bit too expensive for me to actually kill this Reynard. A lot of things can go wrong if I commit these coins that I have. They'll be very useful in round 3, the 2 little carryover that I've got. And it's a bit difficult for me to get the coin count, needed to kill the Reynard at this stage. Looking at my hand, I want to keep that Royal Decree for Savola Louisa combo, or finding another very key card, and the other cards in my hand are very, very useful later and not so useful now. So this is my pass. I think I'm just going to take it once that engine hits the board. This is a philosophy that I have a lot of the time, is when you're bleeding in a round 2, oftentimes the good time to pass is when the opponent starts to match your engine value. And yeah, once they start to play their long round cards, so that they're in a position where they can start to actually gain back the points that you've, distanced yourself from them, that's usually the time to pass. Because as you see here now, there's a very big point deficit, which he has to account for with leader charges or with card disadvantage. If I played on into this round, my dog that's getting Baroned doesn't actually really get me any more points because it's getting answered, whereas his engine would be getting him value. So he would be gaining back the distance that we've made, and that would mean he maybe wouldn't have to commit leader charges or another card if we did play on here. So quite an important thing to recognize. This is the pass. Baron is a lot of points, but my dog will take an extra time. The bleeding does, get in the way a bit, but he does have to use 2 leader charges here to get ahead. So really nice result for me. I got a lot of the leader value out there. That's going to make his Visagard and Scytheman a lot worse later. And we got the Baron. The Baron is key, because that is the real answer to Saul that he has, and to also my Sea Jackals. It's really his huge finisher tempo play in this matchup, and we've got that one out from him. So I'm feeling very good now. My draws are also pretty nice. We drew into Louisa and Azar. Azar, not so great. He can probably just Falibor it because he's held onto it rightly. And I drew another Sea Jackal, which I don't think is too useful, so I do end up mulliganing that. Fortunately, I do get Philippa, so my hand is looking insanely good. And at this point in the game, I'm thinking, I probably win with this kind of a hand in a 7-card round. It's not particularly long, so, you know, his Scytheman, his Visigoth won't be too powerful, but it's just long enough that I can get good soul value. You know, if he has something stealable, then my Philippa will get value, and just going to be really nice for me overall. I also have Royal Decree. I have access to my Kalkstein, which I'm very happy about because I'm you know, a bit worried about Defender. I figured I could probably Philippa the Defender as well. But Kalkstein is sort of a backup plan in case something goes weird or wrong in this round. I can always Purify the Defender. So we'll see what Kolemoen goes for. He doesn't have too many proactive plays. Probably only Defender is the play that he can make here. And then, of course, he wants to try to get Anna out as soon as possible, you know, to get those points rolling. And really, for me at this point, I'm asking the question, how important is it for me to Philippa the Defender? Do I need to rush to get coins in order to do that? What's the kind of objective here for me? Now, I know that he still has Prince Anses in his deck, and that's kind of his one answer to my soul left. And so I'm thinking to myself, I really don't want that to be answered with that, even though he would lose a lot of leader value doing it right now, because of course the Scytheman would pop out for no value. In hindsight, I probably could have just opened with soul here, with Hidden Cache Leader, and it probably would have been fine for me. But, you know, I do decide to go with Azar instead to protect my soul. You know, I assume that he might be waiting a little bit on killing my on my Defender. If not, you know, either way I'm delaying his engines. I do think about the soul. I thought about it. He could kill it with Anses, so I decided, you know what, probably better to just Azar first, you know, and then go for the soul. Maybe I can punish here if he decides to be greedy and play, you know, a card that doesn't answer my Defender. And if not, then we didn't really lose anything, because my soul is going to get an extra point, and he'll be much harder to kill with that Anses. You know, I'll get more value if he does go for that line of play, if that makes sense. So, yeah, now probably the correct play on his part would be Falibor, although you're then asking the question, does he want to use the Anses as the next play to answer Soul, because it's just really not good value. Before he's got all the buffs on his side of the board, his Scytheman popping out of leader is going to be worth very little points. And I think Kolemoen's thinking at this point, he's not going to be beating a really good hand from me. So he needs to maybe just hope that I don't have Soul, for example. He needs to hope that I don't have some of these key cards, which I do have in hand, in order for him to win, because he's in a very bad spot. So he does go for an interesting play here, which is to Anna and boost his Defender. So the reasoning behind this, obviously, is to deny my Philippa onto the Defender, which I think he presumed I was trying to activate by playing the Azar, get up to 8 coins so I could deal with the Defender. I've just said to myself, I don't need to deal with it, because I have Kalkstein if I really do have to, you know, purify that Defender, which I probably will have to do. But I can just set up my own engines first. I can play my Soul now and really get the points rolling on my side of the board. My Soul is getting way more points than his Anna even gets. So worth keeping that in mind. My engine value here is better than his, so I'm very happy to set up an engine, you know, before answering his engines. So he's now going to go with Kira, and this is kind of the play that just really, that's game over at this point. And I'm very happy to see this. It just gives my Kalkstein so much value. Obviously he plays it next to the Defender. Kolemoen's win condition at this point, he's saying to himself, I just have to really hope to God that he doesn't have Kalkstein, and that I brick his Philippa with the Defender. He saw that as being his win condition, and so played towards that. But luckily for me, I do have the Kalkstein to deal with the Defender, and that's just going to be game-winning value, denying all of the Kira value. I get through the Defender, that enables my Philippa now to steal Anna next turn. He doesn't really have any way to play around that. His Anses also, since he took this line, is much weaker, because he doesn't have that leader charge to boost it up and make it duel an enemy. So really everything's just kind of going wrong at this point. I still even have my Defender active on the board, so he needs to Falibor that before, you know, getting through with his Visigoth and stuff. Just a really horrible situation for Kolemoen, and at this point, looking at my hand with Louisa Savola power, I'm feeling super good and like there's no real way for him to win here. So he is going to go Decree, and he's going to pull Avalak to actually deal with my defender, which is good for him. The Ansays now is not really looking so sharp. It's just an 8-point play realistically, maybe a bit more if he plays it on back row. But the Avalak will get through the defender and enable Fallible to get a bit more value. So I suppose at this point he's just hoping I don't have Philippa to deal with his engine, and then at least he's kind of trading even on the long-term value in this round at the moment. But I do. So, you know, Kolemoen's win condition in this round is really hoping I don't have cards, and I do have cards. I did draw quite well, you know, somewhat to be expected. I have the Raw Decree for consistency as well. And yeah, Philippa coming down, 10 points ahead. Yeah, it's really not looking too good for Kolemoen. He does have quite a few boosted bodies, so the Visigoth will be able to ping down my Anna and finish that off with the Frost. So, you know, he's getting a similar amount of engine value as I am. Although he doesn't kill the Anna right away, it seems like. Chooses to go for the extra point. I think that might have been a slight misplay from Kolemoen there, actually. He probably should have just played the Visigoth on front row, you know. Although he goes for the kind of this approach as well, which, yeah, it also works. He goes for the Fallible onto the Anna. I think he could have maybe got a little bit more value had he played that slightly differently, but I don't think it matters at this point, and I think he knows it doesn't matter, because we're just so far ahead in points at this stage with the loser Savola coming down. And the Enchantress is really not going to cut it here. So quite a one-sided round 3, which was to be expected. I did a very successful bleed in round 2, and the round 3 I had a very good hand. You know, Kolemoen's hand was quite strong as well, but it just wasn't strong enough to beat mine, and I had all the answers for the cards that he had there. So let's roll into game 2, shall we? Alright, so this is going to be my Northern Realms versus his Nilfgaard. I'm on blue coin now. And I'm a bit worried about this matchup, because he has a lot of armor. The armor is very annoying to deal with for stuff like Philippa, Avalak. I'm a kind of damage-oriented deck. I also have a lot of vitality and stuff that has anti-synergy against his, you know, Thirsty Dames. Those will be very nasty to deal with. So I'm keeping all this in mind. He's also playing double Masquerade Bull, potentially, which is a huge amount of power. And I'm really thinking to myself, how do I win this game? What's my best chance of winning in terms of the long-term strategy? Now I look at my hand here and I think, oh, that's pretty good. I actually do want some playable cards for round 1, so I do choose to keep that. I've got some really nice bronzes here that I can open with, and a lot of good power golds I can save for later. So I'm thinking to myself, I do want to win round 1, just so I have a bit of control over the game, because I think if he has control, I'm probably not in a good spot. His deck probably counters mine a little bit overall. It's probably favoured for him, this matchup. So for me to have a chance of winning, I really need control of the game. I need to win round 1 if I can, or at least I need to get a lot from him in round 1. I'm very scared of Masquerade Bull coming down, but there's not too much I can do about it if he does have it. Other than maybe react with some powerful golds of my own. But I'm going to open with Carabalista here. And yeah, I'm still thinking, how do I win? What's the win condition? I figure I'm probably best suited to a long round here. You know, if I can go to a very long round, if I can maybe minimize the amount of soldier value he can get with Raymond and Crossbowman, then I'm probably in a pretty okay spot. I have a lot of long round potential with my Scytheman, with my leader, with my Visigoth, potentially with my Anna and Reynard, although they'll probably get dealt with. But I'm thinking I need that long round. I don't want to be pushed round 2, that would be very bad for me, so let's try to win round 1 here. He's going to go with Magni, that's pretty chill, pretty slow, so I figure probably no, you know, no Masquerade Bull is coming right now, since he opened with this instead of Big Tempo. There could be, you know, soldiers, there could be Raymond coming. But I think I'm pretty safe to go with another kind of 4p bronze. The line of play I'm looking at right now is going to be Rad of Israel Guards, into Tridem, into Kira. And I really want the Tridem to stick. I'm worried that he might poison it, I'm worried that he might lock it. But I'm going to try to, get a bit of value from the Tridem immediately with the Radovid Royal Guard and protect it from Tawny Joust, which he also plays. And I'm just going to put out a couple of these bronze guys to maybe bait, a lock or poisons if he has them before I commit my Tridem. Once I play the Tridem, I'm then going to follow up with the Kira to get the really big value from that card, and that I'm hoping will be enough to win me the round, or at the very least, get a lot of resources from him if he does want to push it. And Kolemoen's hand here is a little bit awkward. He doesn't really have, any crossbowmen, so he can't, pressure the long round value too much here. He's just going to go with the Tortoise, opting not to play Raymond. I honestly think that's probably a mistake from Kolemoen here. I think he didn't value pushing this round enough. And I think he gave me round 1 control a little bit too easily here. He could have gone Raymond into the Tortoise, and, that would have been a lot more pressure, and I wouldn't have been able to, for example, ping the armor on that to get me some extra points, because it would have had 4 armor. So I think he maybe should have gone with Raymond there to put a bit more pressure on me here. I'm feeling very relaxed right now. I can just drop the Tridem, I can boost it. First, I'm going to shoot the Tortoise so that my Caraballista is the biggest unit. At that time, we'll get the buff from the Tortoise. And then I'm going to boost the Tridem. If I do it in the other order, my Tridem becomes very, very big, and it's an obvious poison for him. Whereas right now, it's not a super obvious poison on the Tridem. It's maybe more tempting to do it on the Caraballista. He might assume that I'm just playing 3 bad cards and passing, and I can kind of bait him into a false sense of security in this round. Make him think that now I want to get out. I've played 3 cards. Let me out of here. I don't have anything else. I've got a gold hand. I'm leaving now. So probably in Kolemoen's mind, he's thinking, okay, this is cool. I'm going to win the round. I'm probably going to play 2 bad cards here and be fine. He's got the Magni ticking for points every turn. So I think his line here is, in his mind, going to be just recruit into Alba Spearman to take the round. And I don't think he quite realised that I have a follow-up play after this Tridem, which is really punishing for him now. And it's the Kira. The Kira is going to slam on the board for a ton of points. And I'm pretty sure I work it out in my head. I'm thinking, okay, what if he has poisons? There's one thing that can kind of punish me here, and that is Vincent. If he has Vincent, then I'm in a bit of trouble. But I kind of have to just take the gamble, I think, to be in the best spot in this game. And I think if he has Vincent even, it doesn't get him ahead because of my Tridem value proccing now. So I slam that Kira on the board. I say, even if he has Vincent, it's not enough. It would be annoying if he did, but it's not going to be enough. If he has double poison, I'm not even sure that's enough either to take it. So one way or another, I might get some good cards from him and still get out the round here. I also get rid of this Kira, which I don't want for later on because it's Vitality. It's really awkward if he has Thirsty Dame on the board. And it plays into Vincent later because I'll have units that I'm boosting up, which already high base strength, and those are going to play into Vincent more because I'll have Vitality and be a free kill for Vincent. So I really want to get this Kira out of my hand, and it's the perfect time to do it. I have a Tridem on the board, and now I've got tons of points rolling in that the opponent has to deal with somehow. And Kolemoen says, okay, I'd rather just not play into the Tridem and calculate 2 points per turn plus Tridem value, and, it's just a bit too much. And that's a fair enough decision. He maybe could have, I didn't do the maths, maybe he could have committed poisons, but I'm not sure. He could have gambled on the Roderick to find Vincent, but even then, I'm not sure that's, going to be putting him in a great spot. I think really the mistake here from Kolemoen was underestimating my round 1 and not respecting the fact that I might push it and might try to win it. But, he's not in a terrible spot here. There's definitely ways he can win, and his long round is very good. But I'm feeling quite good about my situation now. I also found a Scytheman, which I'm very happy about because that's another long round tool. I want to find as many of those long round plays as I can. I really would like Visegard, Reynard, etc. Lambert would be really cool to see. Anna and Reynard aren't so good because he can deal with them in certain ways with locks and invocation and stuff. Now, in this round 2, I'm going to play a few bad cards. I'm going to play my Maulers. And the reasoning here is I know I want to go to round 3. I could just take the pass, but if I play Maulers, then I can punish the opponent very hard for having a hand that is too good. If he has, an all-gold hand, then I might force him into a very awkward spot where he has to play some golds he doesn't want to. And I'm also thinking about crossbowmen, because crossbowmen are quite a big threat in round 3. They do represent a lot of long-term value for him with all the soldiers. And if I can get a couple of them in this round 2, you know, he has to respect my bleeding potential a little bit. He doesn't want to be bled. So if I can get a few crossbows here or there, then that's going to make my long round a little bit better comparatively to his. So I figure I'll play some maulers here. We'll see what we get. We might get some good stuff. And it turns out we do get Raymond. Kolemoen choosing to respect my points and my push potential. Now, honestly, he probably could have just gone with a crossbow. He does have 2 in hand, so he probably could have just gone with a vanilla crossbow to start, and then maybe followed up with a spearman or something after I play the second bad play here. You know, if he wanted to be a little bit more cautious and not spend so many resources here. So I'm going to go with the mauler now, again, for the same reasoning. He just played a Raymond, so his hand is, I'm thinking to myself, his hand is probably very good. We know he has another crossbow, he might play that crossbow here. Since he did go with the Raymond, he might be just wanting to get this long-term value. He does play the crossbow, so I'm very happy. This might seem like a very small deal, but these crossbows in round 3 can get a lot of points, and they do in some way require answering by me. They kind of are coming down as 7 for 5s, with the potential, you know, for more value. So they're kind of his best bronzes, excluding the aristocrats and the poisons. So I'm really happy to get those. I basically got, like, I would have mulliganed my maulers anyway. So by playing them there, I just effectively made him mulligan away his Raymond and his, you know, his crossbow. So really, really good result for me. And that could, you know, make or break this game. Those couple of extra points that I'm going to get as a result of that line of play. So I think Kolemoen did do a bit of a misstep there. He should have probably just relaxed a little bit and not played, you know, so many points. Maybe he was a bit scared after the last game where I really bled and really took a lot from him. But either way, very good result for me, and I'm happy with my position. It's not perfect. My hand isn't quite as good as it could have been. I am missing Visagard, which is a very important card, very powerful. So that kind of sucks for me. I'm a bit worried that maybe his hand is all golden at this point since he committed a Raymond into that round 2. So I'm a little bit scared. At the same time, I know this is basically the best situation I'm going to get for my deck and for this matchup. You know, a long round where I can control some of the engines that he puts out, and hopefully my engine value with Scytheman will be enough to get me through. I also probably get quite a bit of Lambert value onto the Fangs, which will spawn from his scenario, so I'm quite happy about that. I can mitigate some of that big value that he would normally have. I have Baron to deal with the Joachim, so I have some answers to his stuff. He also has answers to mine, so, you know, it's going to be a very close round 3, I'm thinking. And he's going to start with the Sire to reshuffle his Raymond that he played in the round 2. So I'm thinking, okay, fair enough, that play made sense now. He's going to have all of his golds in round 3. This is quite scary. I might just be losing this. Now I need to try to find a way to sequence as best as I can. I think that I don't want to play my engine, you know, like Anna or whatever, too early because it's not going to find too much value. And the sequencing can get a little bit awkward for me here. So I'm just going to start with Matter. That's safe, that's reasonable. I'm going to grab my Reynard that's in deck currently. A little bit annoying because I'm going to probably give him a good 4p card because his deck does have pretty good ones. You know, maybe I give him a poison, which it looks like I do. And he's going to make my life difficult here with his plays, presumably with poisons. I'm trying to buff my units, but the poison on those units is going to make them not worth buffing, really. And yeah, my engines are going to get answered, so I'm going to need to try to find as much value as I can from my other cards, really. I'm sort of looking at Avalak and Philippa. Those are big key cards to get value from. If they get interrupted by a Raymond with armor on his guys, then I might be in trouble, because I can't really afford to be damaging the armor and losing a bunch of points that way. So he is going to go with the scenario now. He's going to buff his Thirsty Dame once, so it's not an obvious Philippa. I think it's still a great Philippa, though, for me. I have a pretty damn good chance of killing the Dame, and I don't really have a great way to kill it otherwise without losing some boosted value. You know, I could play Ansays, for example, but at that point I'm, you know, losing a leader charge, and I won't have a boosted unit after using the leader charge, so it's kind of really quite bad. I figure with the Philippa here, I can also play it on back row, and that'll allow me to go with maybe a Reynard, for example, next, or maybe Anna, and start getting some engine value maybe. I'm also thinking he'll probably deal with the engine, but you know, it doesn't hurt to try to set those up sooner rather than later. So I am going to go with that Philippa there, and it does kill the Thirsty Dame, which is really nice for me. That means I can save my Baron for either a second Thirsty Dame or for a Joachim later on, which will boost one of his units by 8. And that Baron value will be really, really juicy because I'll be able to get the bleeding as well with my leader. And I'm also keenly aware that he has Swears in his deck, so I'm going to try to mitigate how much Swears value he gets if I can. You know, I'm going to boost my Avalak by 1, for example. I'm going to boost units that are at 3 strength. I'm going to try not to give him a good target. It might become difficult not to, but that's kind of the thinking there. And Kolemoen's got that in the back of his mind as well. Swears can be dangerous, and it can brick in this matchup if you're not careful, because of that leader being able to boost things. And, you know, my cards just boost each other generally. So he goes for the Roderick into Raymond, gets a bunch of armor on the board. I'm a bit scared now. This is a bit scary. My Avalak is looking a bit weird and hard to get value from. Now that there's armor on the board, I'm very glad though that I got the Philippa out of my hand before this came down. That's really good for me. If he'd gone with, you know, a Raymond before playing this scenario, I think I would have been in a much worse spot because my Philippa value would have been, you know, significantly weaker. So that might have been a misstep on Kolemoen's part, not quite. Or maybe he thought he was getting something different from the Roderick and wasn't expecting the Raymond, but either way, I think he could have maybe gained a bit more value by sequencing a bit differently here. So he does get the poison on the Matter. This is annoying for me because I don't really want to play Reynard. It's not going to do very much, and he'll just take it anyway. And it'll be an annoying card that I have to deal with myself once he plays it with Joachim. So I figure I could probably just go with Enchantress onto Philippa. I know it's really not great because he can just kill the Philippa with Crossbowman that I know he has in hand because he played a Raymond onto Crossbow. But, you know, there's not much else, and I figure, you know what, this Philippa is kind of a Swears target anyway, so if he doesn't take the Swears on this, then I might be able to brick Swears. So, you know, even if he crossbows, there's an option for me to maybe try to brick Swears. You know, even if he pings the Enchantress, I can then go Reynard, I can buff it to 4, and then I can try to play around it by, you know, buffing things. And it will be very hard for him to get the Swears value if I play for that line. So, yes, the crossbow would be quite bad for me here, but at the same time, I think I can maybe deny Swears, or at least I can make him scared of being able to deny it. And of course, if he doesn't go with crossbow, I'm not sure why he wouldn't, you know, then I could just Reynard and then it would be out of Swears range. But he does go for the Swears here. He decides to play it safe and just get the guaranteed value there, which I think is the correct play. Crossbow would have been a little bit gutsy, a little bit risky, but it probably would have netted him more value had it worked out for him. I'm just not sure it would have. It would have been very risky to do that. So he goes for the safer line, maybe the worst line at the end of the day, but it's definitely safer. And again, I'm in an awkward spot because I don't really want to play Reynard on this poisoned unit. I don't want to play Anna onto a poisoned unit. They're both going to get dealt with anyway, probably. My Avalak value is kind of hard to find right now. There's a lot of armor on the board, and I'm wondering where I'm getting the value from. I figure, okay, whatever. I may as well just start playing these engines. I may as well just throw them out. There's a possibility that he won't have answers. Maybe he didn't draw Invocation, whatever. If that's the case, then I should just get them out of my hand now. Start boosting things as well. I can get that boost onto the Enchantress, which is pretty nice. Now, honestly, there's definitely reason to maybe play just Anna here, for example. I think Anna might have been a better play. Just a vanilla Anna and not boost. I think that would have been the correct line from me because he's probably then going to lock the Anna, right? That's the most efficient way. I could have even boosted it once to play around Tawny Joust. And I still would have got the buff on the Enchantress, and that would have given me another target to kind of buff with the Reynard. Because here I lost a bit of value buffing that poisoned unit, because that's going to die anyway. So I think the line here I took was a little bit wrong, and I could have gained maybe a point from doing it a bit differently. He does go for the Invocation on Reynard, dealing with that because it's just an annoying threat. And it is a pretty good Joachim target for him, because if I go for bleeding on to it, then to get the bleeding value, I also have to not kill the Reynard. So one way or another, he does get value from that Reynard ability. And now I go with the Anna. So yeah, my sequencing here wasn't great. I could have definitely gained an extra point, possibly. I could even have maybe played Avalak now to get another unit boosted, by that Anna. And I wasn't quite appreciating the, the importance of using the Anna to boost units, or using my units to boost units in general. Just because that way I get more Scytheman value and stuff. So I think, yeah, the line of play I took here was maybe losing me a point. Or 2, or 3, maybe more than a point. But I do go for the boost onto Anna. I figure I may as well to play around the Tawny Joust. Probably should have done this before the Reynard, though. That's the important thing to note. Would have got me a little bit of extra value. It probably was only like 1 point, ultimately. Maybe more. But yeah. So now he's going to go for the lock onto the Anna, of course. That poison's going to come and hit my Matter from the ball. And he's a lot of points up right now. I'm a bit worried. I don't have any engine value. My deck's kind of falling apart a little bit. There's nothing on his board that I can control with my damage, so I can't really gain much value from that stuff. I really need to find Avalak value. That's kind of key right now, and I'm not sure how to do it. I'm a little bit confused. I also have Lambert in my hand, by the way. Worth noting. He is, black for some reason. I don't know what happened there. But that is a Lambert. So I do end up going with Avalak here, I believe. And I just play it for Fog onto front row. And my reasoning there is it will hit one of the armor, but it won't do enough damage such that it kills the Fangs. And that's really important because the Fangs represent a Lambert and Lambert value. So I figure if I just go for Fog, it will hit the Raymond armor, it will hit Raymond, it will hit the Fangs, it will hit Swears. The Fangs will still be on 2. I'll have at least got 6 points from this Avalak, which isn't too bad. It's still a 9-point play, which is pretty good. Now, obviously, he has more armor in his hand with the second crossbowman, so he can maybe, deny my Avalak value a bit more here. But I figure this is just the best that's going to come from this situation. I could have gone for Rain and just tried to kind of dodge the armor, but I think that's kind of, on average, getting the same amount of points as the Fog. I could be wrong, but I don't think Rain would be particularly, would be any better. I could have Rain back row maybe. That would have maybe given me better chances to get more points. I'm not entirely sure how the maths works out there, but either way, I think they work out kind of similar. I'm going to lose value to the armor for this Avalak, and that's just kind of life. There's not really a way around that. Kolemoen's been playing in both rows with his armor, such that my Avalak will lose value. And he's going to go for his Joachim now to get that Reynard on the board. He's also going to play it in front so that the Fog will hit it, and I'll lose Baron value if I don't go for a Baron now. But of course I am. I'm going to deal with the green strength on that, get my bleeding going, and I'm actually quite happy that he played it there, because it potentially means I can get a bit more Fog value than I otherwise would have gotten. Maybe not. I was also thinking to myself, should I just not Baron this? But there's really no other Baron target at this point other than leader charges from him, but he can use them on damaged units, so I really just should take the Baron value. It's never getting better. But I do get a fog proc on this reset Reynard, which is quite nice for me, I think. It also allows me to kill it with Fallible next turn should I want to do that, and I figure I may as well do that, most likely. Yeah, I lose the bleeding value, but I also deny the boost value, and maybe the boost value can be relevant in some way for him. Probably not, but yeah. Either way, pretty good reset for me. I deal with the Joachim, I trade up on that, which is really good for me, because it's one of his better plays. And he's going to go with the crossbow onto that front, using that armor to deny my Fog value more. So that's really annoying, because he can use like a leader charge to boost up the soldier, potentially, and then my Avalak's doing nothing more, it's just dealing damage to the armor. He doesn't have more soldiers, so killing that armor doesn't do anything for me. And at this point I'm just thinking, okay, we got a Fallible now. Nothing really else to do. Yes, it feeds him a little bit more poison value, but that's not the end of the world. And I know he might have more Fangs of the Empire. It's pretty damn likely he'll have another one in this round, because I did give him a 4P card with Matter, and I want to maximize my Lambert value on the right. Lambert blacked out at the moment for some reason, but That is a Lambert that can come down and hit all of the fangs. So I'm just going to go with the fallible. I'm going to kill the Reynard. I don't need to. It's kind of the same value whether I kill it or not. Because if I don't kill it, it'll be boosting 1 per turn. If I do, then it, it's the same difference really. But I kill it with the fallible. And it's pretty damn close in points. Yeah, my Avalak isn't really going to get any more value here, but that's kind of alright. We're only a point down at this stage, and I'm thinking, wow, okay, I actually managed to somehow keep up in points here. He did have quite a few bronzes that he had to play, and that's sometimes the downside with these Imperial Formation decks is you need to keep some bronzes, you need to keep your aristocrats, you need to keep your soldiers to enable your Raymen and stuff to be working. So that's kind of the downside of his deck being shown here. Yes, it's very strong, particularly when you're able to bleed with one of the packages, or push with one of the packages in a certain round, but once it's a full round 3 laid out, here are all the cards, then there's a bit of weakness from the deck because you've got these bronzes and whatnot. So at this point, there's some very interesting decisions that I have to make here, and it's whether I go with just an Ansays now, or a Lambert now. That's really the decision. Now, I'm weighing the chances of him having another Fangs. I'm also thinking to myself, is it the end of the world if he has another Fangs? Is that a problem? I figure he almost certainly has Vincent in hand. That's just a strong card that you should expect him to have at this point in the game, especially since he hasn't played that many golds this round. So he's probably got Vincent. What's his other card? I figure it could be a Fangs. I don't really care that much if it is a Fangs, because effectively it's poisoning a 4-point unit. So I think I'm probably winning if he has a Fangs here. So I'm just going to slam the Lambert, get my value. Yeah, it's not ideal, it's not perfect, but the reasoning here is, if I see his next card, and it's not a lock, if it's not the Van Moorhelm's Hunter, the 3-point card he has on the back row there, if he doesn't have a second one of those in this next play, then that means I'm safe to play Ansays on back row, because he doesn't have any other answer in his deck for the Ansays on back row other than that lock. And the really cool thinking that goes in here is, this lock card, he wouldn't ever save this to the last play. It's just not, it doesn't make sense to save it to last play. He would have played it a turn earlier than last because of that bleeding effect. He would need to get the bleeding down effectively that turn where he played the Fangs, right? So I know I'm 100% safe here. It wouldn't make any sense for him to keep the the Hunter, sorry. And if he did, I still even beat the Hunter. I've calculated it. Okay, I actually win against the only answer he has to Ansays now on the back row is something that I beat anyway if he has it, because getting that boost is going to give me more Scytheman value. And that's like a really important thing. This is going to make me effectively gain an extra 4 points total, which is really huge. In fact, it might be more than that. I can do the maths on that now if you want. We can pause it. So, yeah. Here, the Ansays normally... I would play it on front right, and then I would boost it with a leader charge. So I use one of my leader charges on that instead of on a different unit. So that other unit wouldn't be boosted. That means 2 less value on a Scytheman, firstly. I also lose 1 point because Ansays wouldn't have got the extra boost himself. So I lose 1 point there, and I would have... yeah. Is that it? So is it 3, or is it... No, it's more because I... yeah, maybe it's only 3 points. I don't know exactly how much it is. Whatever, maybe it's not that important. I might have done the maths wrong there. But either way, it's like a reasonably big deal, and it's enough to potentially win a game here. Me playing it on the back row here. I think it ends up being worth about 3 points for me total. So I go with my leader and finish off here, and I do actually win by 3 points. So yeah, really, really down to the wire there. And it's really quite important to note, guys, that the sequencing here was really important. There were 2 ways that I win this game, I think. One of the ways was I have to play the Lambert on all of the Fangs of the Empire that he plays, right? I have to play it at the end. I have to hit all of his Fangs with the Lambert. Now, what happens if I do that is he can hold on to his Fangs until the last play. He doesn't have to play his Fangs until the very end, and that means my Scytheman misses out on value, potentially. I guess not. I guess it wouldn't. Nah, never mind. So, but he could hold on to the Fangs, and yeah, at the end of the day, I have to take 2 lines. One of them is I have to Lambert all of his fangs in that situation, or I have to go for that greedy Ansays play to get the extra few boosts on my Scythemen, on my units. And I did take that line, which can't say whether it was safer or not. I mean, it was always winning in this situation. And the Lambert line was also always winning. So there were 2 ways to play it, and I took that approach. But very cool ending to that game. I really liked the thinking that went on there, and very close one. But I think it shows if you kind of play to your win condition with a deck, even if you're unfavored, you are able to come out with the win on occasion. And yeah, a few missteps here and there from Kolemoen, but he did play very well. He did use the armor in such a way that it was very annoying for my Avalak there, and I think he piloted his decks well, just got the better of him in this particular instance. But anyway, yeah, that's the best of 3 series over. I did win 2, so that's the end there. And yeah, hope that was educational, in some way, informative, entertaining, all of that good stuff. That's about it from me, guys. Very fun games to play. I did have a good one, and it did feel quite good to hold my own against one of Gwent's best, even if it's in such a small scale and unofficial tournament. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Do stay safe and happy out there, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.